This month is February, so we're gonna talk about romance and friendship. It's called relationship genre. Historical of romance story is the romance story focus on courtship from the first meeting until the wedding day. In every story, in the last chapters, they get married, which was comedy and action, and most famous two, Robin Hood and Princess Bride. The tragedy was the opposite, and they end up dead or forced to marry another. Famous one is, of course, Romeo and Juliet. Epic story like the Odyssey are the story of a man journey to return home to his wife and family. So, is an action adventure are the main genre, but romance is secondary. And another epic story, but is more tragedy. It starts Hercules was cursed by Hera, his mother-in-law, and he killed his wife and kids, and of course the second part of the story is he have to redeem himself. History of friendship story, famous one is Bacon stories is Damien and Pisces, and the Gilgamesh and Enkidu. I recommend you to read it if you want to write a story about friendship. And of course historical stories is C.S. Lewis and J.R. Tolkien is a famous one. J.R.R. Tolkien, he converted C.S. Lewis back to Christianity, and of course C.S. Lewis who did Narnia and other Christian books, and J.R.R. Tolkien he did Lord of the Ring and The Hobbit. And Thomas Jefferson and John Adams, they started off very good friends, and John Adams actually told Thomas Jefferson to write the Declaration of Independence because he's a better writer. John Adams lost to Thomas Jefferson in the election, so there was like some kind of feud and conflict, and then later they reconciled. And both of them died in the same day. And John Adams said to the people around him, at least Jefferson is still alive, but Jefferson was dead a couple of hours before him. So it was like a good historical story, friendship, and it was part of some part of it. It was a frenemies too. And a Bible story, we have a lot. Our relationship with God is that's the main thing in the Bible story is our relationship with God, and how like God with Job, God with Abraham, God with Jacob, God with any other characters in the Bible. And of course Jonathan and David, those are like, if you think if you tell give me a friendship in the Bible, you will start saying Jonathan and David. Even so, Jonathan is 25 years older than David. It's more a mentor student friendship. Saint Paul, Philemon, and Onesimus is a big is one page chapter about it, and I recommend you a good read. Ruth and Naomi, the book of Ruth is a very good book. And anytime Saint Paul had a lot of friendship, he had friendship with Saint Barnabas, Saint Silas, Saint Luke. So there's a lot of friendship with Saint Paul. Moses and Joshua, of course, also a mentor student. Moses and Aaron and Miriam, siblings. Daniel was his three friends. Jacob and Joseph, father and son relationship. Any story about our Lord Savior Jesus. Him and Lazarus is a famous friendship. Him and Peter. Him and Saint John the Baptist. Saint John the Beloved. Him and with Saint Mary. Him and Nicodemus. There's a lot of friendship story and relationship story. Elijah and Elisha. St. Peter and St. John. If you read the first books of Acts, you find St. Peter goes, St. John follow him. And Job and his friend. And there's many stories in the Bible about friendship, relationship. It's like the whole Bible is like that. So I'm just giving examples. History of Valentine's Day is Saint Valentine died in Italy in the year 273 AD. Emperor Claudius II wanted the soldiers not to marry and live single to focus on strengthening the Roman Empire. Emperor Claudius wanted the soldiers to satisfy their lust only. Christian soldiers wanted to remain chastity. So Saint Valentine used to marry the soldiers to a Christian woman to build Christian homes in secret. When the emperor heard about Saint Valentine, he was executed for marrying the soldiers, and he became a patron of love and marriage. Genre topics and timeline of a love story is meet cute, courtship and passion, engagement and intimacy phase, honeymoon phase, children phase, so babies and kids are young, children in love phase, which may be teenager or adult, or their children are getting married, grandchildren phase, so they maybe will meet their grandchildren, and retirement. And so this is basically a typical relationship between a love relationship between a man and a woman. But some stuff happens sometimes. So breakup and divorce, sickness and death, affair, secret come up. So when we write a story, sometimes we only focus on one phase, or we just focus on something bad happen. And sometimes sickness and death, for example, is maybe a sickness of child, maybe sickness of parents, death of a child, death of the parents, death of a friend. It doesn't have to be their death. It could be something came up that they have to deal with. Maybe it's not their breakup. Maybe breakup of their children, breakup, a friendship breakup, and it's affecting their marriage. There's different things. Affairs, of course, is basically the same, but also could be affair of their children, affair of their parents. Maybe it's not secret come up. He was one of them was adopted, and he have to meet their new family, or his biological family. Like we have movies or stories that he's secretly a spy, or he had a double life, he's secretly married. There's different stories. And the love story as primary plot, the main character focus on love story, but another issue come out also, like we talked about before. It could be not their lives, someone else's life is affecting their lives. And the most famous one, romance comedy, was rom-com, and romance tragedy. And we talked about before, romance comedy, it ends in a good note, a wedding, they're together, a kiss. Romance tragedy, they focus on death of the relationship, which mean maybe someone forced, they have to separate, or one of them died, or some kind of something bad in the end. Domestic comedy is more family related, like sitcoms are domestic comedy. Like Everyone Loves Raymond is a famous domestic comedy. Domestic drama could be is about divorce and how they have to deal with divorce. Romance and holidays, Hallmark movies are famous for that. Of course, the most famous one is the love triangle stories, and we're gonna discuss it now. The love triangle stories is high triangle is a love character has a difficulty choosing one of the lovers, or lovers have a big obstacle. Famous one, of course, Affairs. And famous was a sitcom, on again, off again relationship, of course, Friends, Ross and Rachel. A person lives in a loveless marriage. It could be a person lives in a loveless marriage and someone new came to his life, and maybe it's hard for him to divorce, and the drama of that. Low triangle, the lover character was in a relationship and find a better one. Forced marriage, one of them is called Romeo and Juliet. Her father wanted to force her to marry Paris. Abusive marriage. So many of the stories, abusive marriage, as she divorced him, or she got him arrested and she found a better guy. One side lover and wants to break the couple's relationship so that he can be with his lover in interest. For example, the best one, Beauty and the Beast, is Gaston trying to kill the beast to be with Belle. Like that's the most famous one in American culture. When her true love comes and she forgets about the another one. In Hallmark movies, love story as a second plot, the main character focuses on another girl while he's dealing with the girl of his dream. The famous one is comedy with romance, is a guy goes on an adventure. In the middle of his adventure, he met a girl, and in the end, he became with a girl. Action story, the same as comedy in a way, but it tend to be more fighting. So between fights, or between his journey, find a girl, and he goes to date this girl, and maybe end up being together. Crime with romance is the same thing. A detective or a policeman is solving a crime, and in the end, he fell in love with the woman, the victim of the crime. And noir movies, femme fatale sometimes goes the opposite. The woman becomes his enemy in the end. War with romance, the man goes on a war or a journey or a fight, and his wife or his significant other waiting for him at home. So, period piece with romance tend to be historical events. Famous one is, of course, Jane Austen. And she didn't talk about romance only, she talked about other issues too in her current culture. A tip for the Christian writers: every story has a conflict. If you don't want conflict in a love story, make it the second plot, not the primary plot. Conflict will be the primary plot line, and the love story is the story's sweetness. Many people hate love triangle stories, off and on again relationship. Many think it's sinful, and it's true in a way. It promotes affairs, multiple lovers, and weak commitment. The Bible has love triangle stories. David, Uriah, and Bathsheba is high because David killed Uriah. Jacob, Rachel, and Leah. One side lover Leah is she was for Jacob was tricked to marry Leah, so he kept her as wife, but he never loved her. But Leah always wanted love from him, but she never sabotaged Rachel's relationship with Jacob. Hosea and Gomorrah is adulteress, is high, and is a story about forgiveness story. Abraham, Sarah, and Hagar is low because the minute Sarah told him, "I don't want Hagar in my life anymore," Abraham gave her her bags and food and told her, "Get away and leave this area, you and your son." So it's a very low love triangle compared to the ones on top. Ruth and Boaz and another suitor. Boaz, it was the second one to redeem her, not the first one. So Boaz went and talked to the guy. She probably never met him. So it's low. David, Abigail, and Nabal. Uh, David met Abigail, and they were like a little bit flirting. And Abigail went home and saw Nabal was killed. So she went and followed David, and they got married. So and Nabal was the abusive spouse, and it's a low. But if let's say Nabal never killed, it would be on high. It would be a high love story. But he died, so it was easy on her. Why there is a lot of love triangle in the Western world stories. Every story needs a conflict, and have a conflict without a love triangle is challenging because the Western world is open-minded and many issues aren't as common in other countries. In Hollywood, they promote domestic drama more. Movies like affairs, divorce, and abuse. Like you find it, if you put Hollywood movies about domestic drama next to other countries' drama movies, you find Hollywood's 10 times more in a given year. So other culture has conflict can be different, class, and it's not just about a rich versus a poor person. It could be the class, it could be a different fields. Like in other countries, sometimes they see doctors in a different class than entertainment. For example, in Egypt in the 70s, there was a taboo because there was an actress who wanted to marry a doctor. So it was like a very big controversial issue in that time. Financial boundaries. This is a big one in third world countries. When a guy go to propose to a woman, her family asks for 100 things, like for example, furniture, house, jewelry, a car, everything. And of course, the men sometimes they're poor; they cannot provide have everything. They cannot provide everything, so they refuse him. In America, we don't have this issue. The couples tend to they live under means. Like for example, if they're poor, they will live in a small apartment, have a one car. They don't have like jewelry. They could buy it from Walmart. Like they don't have this kind of expectation in America. They could have a small furniture, but over there they have to have the best furniture. Like so, they ask too much from the men, so they cannot marry. Religion and tribal interracial couples thing. In America, they don't have it as much, but maybe in the 60s, it was a major thing, but now it's not. Culture does not allow a woman to choose her husband, arrange or forced marriage, parents' refusal. Like in another culture teaches the danger of divorce, affairs, and how men and women treat each other respectfully. I used to watch Egyptian movies that show how a man and a woman should respect each other. Like it's more education on marriage and protect your children from divorce and affairs, good moral stories. And I don't see that in American Hollywood stories. There's always kind of more selfishness. Who cares about your children? They can survive if you divorce. They can survive with stepfather and stuff like that. And make sometimes the story is okay. It's not very bad immoral, but I recommend you watch a movie from a different culture, especially from Middle East culture or Asian culture or maybe Indian culture. You find it is they try to teach you to prevent this issue before it happens. But in America or Hollywood, more tend to be more. They try to promote it. So okay, relationship genre. A love story is part of it, as friendship also can be part of this genre, and it's divided into romance and womaness. Romance is between friendship between boys, and a womaness, of course, friendship between women. And a love romance, we talked about it more, but it's part of a relationship genre. And relative is father and son, or mom with son, or grandma with granddaughter. So, a relative, a mentor and student, basically a story about a teacher and his relationship with his student, a group of people with the same goal. Famous one is King Arthur and the Round Table, Robin Hood and his merry men. Timeline of friendship story, initial connection, building the bond, challenges and growth. Initial connection, for example, they met, built the bond, they went on an outing, a challenge. They are in school and they have a common bully. They're at work. They have the common boss and who treats them bad. Is how they built their relationship together because they started to trust each other because they're fighting with this person. So of course they're gonna build rapport with each other. Breakup, fight, and distance. Breakup is someone distant is a person who maybe used to live near you and now he moved far away, so you don't see him every day, for example. Sickness and death. Sometimes it's not the person himself. Sometimes is the people surrounding them. Sickness of maybe one of them, his father is dying of cancer, so how he dealt with how his friend helped him seemed a death of a sister or a cousin or something, and how the other friend is helping him with deal with that. Marriage and children, for example, in a friendship story, sometimes the wife and the kids become priority and the friend is not a priority anymore. Before that, a secret came up, maybe we talked about before. One of the friend had a secret and somehow came up and affected their relationship, or they have to work together to solve the issue. Friendship plot, relative, mentor, person, community person, and community. Maybe they go to the same church, or they work on the same bowling team, or different things, or a sport person. Odd couple, friends, of course, like odd couples. One is messy, the other one is neat. The one of them is get anger very fast. The other one is more quieter. So every different type. Coming of age friendship. This is more they meet each other and they have to work together to fight a common enemy. Friendship through adversity. We talked about before, maybe one of the friends, they're dealing with sickness and the other one have to help him, assist him. Friendship to romance or relative. For example, let's say two best friends, their children married to each other, so they became relative. Friendship is two childhood friends, like a boy and a girl, and later in life they became lovers. Or could guy fell in love with the sister of his best friend, so it goes multiple ways. Basic plot line, two different plot lines. The most famous one is one main character, lover is a secondary character, and a main character pursues a secondary character, and one person point of view. A dual characters are two main characters pursuing each other, and persons' point of view. We're gonna discuss first the two main characters' point of view. You start up with the man's talking about his life, and the second chapter or second scene, the woman talking about her life, and they meet each other in the third scene. I'm gonna use it scenes, okay, but you could do it differently. Our characters sat together. Maybe they go back to their lives and they talk to their friends. Oh, I met a girl today. She was very nice. And she will say, I met a guy today. He's very nice. And they will meet again, and maybe they will talk about their love life more in details, or they set goals together, and that's how they bond together, and they go home in their world, and they talk about how, oh, I love her so much, and she will say, I love him so much. And maybe conflict appear. This is when the love triangle appear or become more noticeable, like maybe and maybe they do a breakup, or there's a barrier they have to deal with. In other conflict, maybe parents refusal, or something came up, maybe someone is sick and is dying, or whatever, something happened. So now there is a breakup or a barrier they have to deal with. So they analyze the situation. Maybe they go discuss it with their friends, and maybe someone will find a solution, like a friend will find a solution for them. Understanding. Maybe they will turn back. Hey, I understand why how the conflict is, and continuation of breakup. Maybe they will not gonna go back together or confront the barrier, so maybe they have to fix the barrier. And farewell or union, they be together or say goodbye. One character plotline is the setup, and that's where you're gonna see the ally. She was her ally in the cafeteria and discussing an issue she had. Meets the love interest, and the characters sat together and shares a goal together and bond together. And somewhere in that, the talking to an ally, it comes up. Like maybe is a talking to ally. That's why I put it in the top. It could be here, or could be here, or could be here. It could be any different ways. And now there's a conflict up here. We talked about love triangle before. We talked about it could be any different things. Breakup or confusion. Confusion is what's going on, how we gonna fix this issue, and stuff like that. So talking to an ally. Sometimes an ally have a good advice. So understanding continuation of the breakup, so they could not solve the problem or solve the conflict. It could be in the end farewell or union. A twist, maybe sometimes the ally can be adversary. Maybe the ally actually loved the interest, and now she want to sabotage the relationship. Twist, a lover is the bad guy. So the one she met here is the bad guy, but the one she met here is the another lover who came to save the main character. So this is the story of Frozen is like that. She met the bad guy first, and then she met the good guy, and the good guy fought with the bad guy. Hi, we're gonna talk about Ruth and Naomi relationship. Is a Book of Ruth, and Book of Ruth has a frame structure. We talked about it before. Frame structure have a prologue, which she told the background story. Main story is basically the meat of the story, what is going on in the main story, and epilogue, the good news or the bad news in the end, based on the story. So of course, Ruth and Naomi, we talked about there's the relationship story is mother-in-law and daughter-in-law relationship, and you learn that the prologue, of course, the setup is a prologue. Chapter 1, you learn that the good relationship between Naomi and Ruth. You learn the background, and Basically, they both lost their husband, and they need a man in their life, and they need someone to take care of them. Main story is Naomi was Ruth's greatest advisor and ally, and gonna learn about it later. And the epilogue, Ruth 4:16 to 17, you learn how the story connected with King David. The boy who is born is the grandfather of King David, and the Christ, of course, Jesus Christ, which is the whole book is about. Naomi, who also was rewarded with a grandson for helping Ruth marry Boaz. And here's the Ruth and Boaz love story. So we talked about the setup, and the chapter one technically was the setup, which is the prologue. Ruth lost her husband and went with her mother-in-law, Naomi, to Israel. Naomi motherland, and Ruth went to a strange land. Meets the love interest. Ruth started to work in the field, and her boss Boaz was gentle and treated her kindly and protected her. Because she's a foreigner, he was afraid that she would be treated badly, so he warned his workers that her well and took care of her. Ruth went to tell Naomi how friendly Boaz was to her, and Naomi gave her and the characters sat together, shared goals, and bond together. Sometimes that's based on how story it is. Sometimes the plot line can stretch to multiple scenes, and sometimes based on how short the story is, the story can multiple plot line can be in one scene. So Ruth followed Naomi's advice to Boaz that you are our family guardian redeemer. Based on law, you should marry. It's supposed to be me. And she sat with him. Carter sat together, shared the goals, which is marriage, bonded together because she sat with him like the whole night. Boaz, the conflict appeared. Boaz told her agreed, and he informed her that there was another suitor, and he will handle it. And Ruth went to Naomi to inform her about the conflict, and Naomi advised her again to wait for Boaz to solve the issue. So here there's a confusion. Is this guy, this another suitor will marry me, or Boaz will marry me? Boaz went to talk to this other suitor, relative to Elimelech, and they made a deal. So, of course, understand continuation of breakup or solve the conflict. Boaz solved the conflict. Farewell or union. In this story, Ruth and Boaz got married, and she got a child from him, who redeemer of Elimelech and Mahlon, which is Ruth's first husband, family line. So it's a good story.